Welcome to the first of my videos about GMT's The Battle of Normandy. GMT's monster game covering, well, the Battle for Normandy, covering the Normandy campaign in World War II. 5 huge maps which I have mounted on a metal sheet attached to the wall of my home office. Also had enough room for attaching their player aids and combat tables and things like that. I'm using magnetic counter holders for the counters and rare earth magnets to keep the maps in place. And, well, I just started playing the game. I played the first turn, the turn representing June 6th of the campaign game. The game has several possible scenarios that you can play. Not all of them use all 5 maps, but I wanted to play the campaign game. I wanted to see the entire thing. So this is why, well, there are a lot of counters on the board and a lot of action. So in this video I want to give a little introduction about the game, and in particular an introduction of the initial phases of the game. This is a game about the Normandy campaign, and the campaign game starts on June 6th, D-Day. Therefore, like any game with this topic that is worth its salt, it has to include some special phases, including night airdrops, paratroop drops the night before the main attack, and then special phases representing the landings. But let's get a little closer and have a closer look. Well, here in this area you see mainly the paratroopers that landed the night before. Here are some paratroopers, gliders. All these people are dropped on the map in the first turn, the night turn of June 6th. The game is divided in turns, each divided in 3 phases: a night turn, a morning turn, and an afternoon turn. The first turn of the campaign game, yes, is a special turn, and during that night turn only the power drops happen, and, well, and some actions related to those. There are specific axes in which you need to place your paratroopers, but not exactly. There are hexes around which your paratroopers will land. The instructions in the rulebook will tell you what to do with your paratrooper divisions. The first thing that you do with the divisions that are dropping on the board at the beginning of the game, the first thing that you do is you divide those divisions in smaller groups, such as this one. Each division is broken down in 3 such groups, and then you roll dice to see where those units scatter. You roll dice to indicate the direction in which they will scatter, the distance from the central point. It is quite laborious for each group to come up with 3 smaller groups and to scatter them around. And you do that for American paratroopers that land in this area, and you do the same for Commonwealth paratroopers that land much more in the south, around this area here. So what you see here really is not setup. It is, well, what the board may look like after a couple of things have been performed following setup. So as I said, groups of paratroopers will land on the board, and then during that night turn they will perform actions. They will move. The Germans will react. The Germans will have limited movement to react, and then there will be sequences of combat. The Germans will attack. The paratroopers will defend themselves. So you repeat that procedure several times until, well, the night turn, that special night turn, is over. What is very important is that during the night turn, the companies of paratroopers that got scattered as they landed can reform. So you can actually reform the divisions by simply placing the smaller groups in the same hexes. And this is, for example, what happened for those groups that you see there. I cannot get any closer, or it gets out of focus. But I think you see, well, in the lower right corner, no, I mean the lower left corner, there are 2 divisions that have been reformed. So actually my impression is that, well, that was detailed and fun, but the problem is that it took a lot of work, and at the end of the night turn, the divisions were pretty much reformed. Not all of them, because some had lost some members, and so those had to remain broken down. But I could not escape the feeling that the entire procedure was a little overdone, that it could have been possible to simplify it, simply to inflict some damage on the unit as they landed, to take into account the bad stuff that can happen to them as they land. It took a while. I liked the options, but it just had the sense that in the end, all those options, all the things that they did, didn't really matter all that much. Because of this, I also felt that possibly I could use a simplified solution, a simplified course of action for the landings. Because after the night turn, well, you have the main landings. Let's go to Omaha Beach. Each beach in which you will land your amphibious troops has a grid of axes, as you can see, which are divided in 3 columns: phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3. The setup instruction will tell you about the location of some of your units within that grid. Other units you will place well, as you prefer. There are also special units that will support the landings, special rules that apply there. I don't need to get in detail. Also, the German player will have strong points, such as that one. Those strong points have values between 1 and 4, and they are placed face down so that the Allied player doesn't see the numerical value of those strong points. They're placed around the beaches. You don't see many of them right now because the intense fighting on the first day has taken out most of them, which is precisely the main thing that the Allies will have to do during day 1. To take control of the beaches and to clear the way from the beaches to the mainland. Now, the fact is that those strong points are face down at the beginning. You, as the ally, don't know what they are. You will discover that as you attack. Actually found that this also works very well for solitaire gaming. I'm playing the game solitaire because I simply shuffled the strong points. I placed them in the counter holders without knowing their strength, and yes, I did have a couple of surprises there. So the first thing that you do is you go through 3 phases of landing in which your units, the units belonging to the Allied player, will land to the beaches, will fight again the strong points, and trying to move to leave enough room for the following waves, phase 2 and phase 3 waves, to enter, well, to land and to put a foot on the ground. From that moment on, of course, you are establishing a beachhead. There are markers that indicate the beachhead. As you can see, there are these white boxes. Each is connected to an arrow that goes towards a beach hex. I placed the Omaha beachhead there. That means that that hex there is the actual beachhead, even though the indicator is there. The beach is there, and that is a supply source for my allied units. And you repeat that procedure for the other beaches too: Utah, Gold, Juno, and Sword. As I said earlier, I use a simplified procedure, but it's not something that I made up. The main procedure, the standard procedure, is just like for the paratroopers. You break down the divisions into smaller groups and then you reform them later, but there is the option, in the optional rules, of not doing that. You simply attack with larger groups. That simplifies things a little bit. It probably sacrifices a little bit of detail, but not too much. I found that the gain that I had in pace totally made up for that, and the action was, well, pretty fun to resolve. More fun, I believe, that if I had to go through the entire procedure. So This is what happens in the special turns. I will have other videos to tell you what happens then in regular turns and about main and regular procedures. But what happened here is that after the initial landings, as you can see, the Allied were pretty much able to establish strong positions in all other beaches. This one not much maybe because the fight was intense, but also a lot of German defenders were eliminated. So even though that the beach there seems a little less populated, well, there are reinforcements that are arriving, and the German units are not going to reach that area too easily, not too fast. It is going to be much easier for them to bring reinforcements in and to fight towards the beachhead at Sword. Here we have the big peninsula, and there, in that area, is Cherbourg, very important city for victory point purposes, for resources purposes. The Allied, simply put, need to take control of Cherbourg as soon as they can. It is also a good idea, if they can, to seal off the peninsula. But definitely this is going to be one of the main objectives. The rules and the victory conditions pretty much force you to push towards Cherbourg as the Allied player. So I believe that in the next couple of turns, of days, the main action will involve, well, strengthening as much as possible all the beachheads, trying to set up a defense in this area here to slow down reinforcements that will certainly arrive, while a group of American units will move towards Cherbourg. And here the Commonwealth will, well, hold the flank and possibly also try to expand as much as possible towards Caen. Victory is based on control of cities, of key locations on the map. Therefore, the Allies will try to take control of as many important cities on the map as possible, and as soon as possible. This is all for today. I hope you enjoyed this little introduction to the battle for Normandy. More videos will come on this topic. My next video will be a general coverage of the main rules, procedures, and concepts in the game.